we're going to talk about the understanding, it is no surprise, the technology, data, and the people. Okay, so what does that mean, and why is this important as you're prepping for an RFP? So let's talk about each of these separately. The technology itself, you know, in ideal world, you want the CDP is here, and let's say you're feeding the CRM data in here. You're bringing in your, let's say, it's just my erase will work. Let's say we are bringing, this is my web data, and then I'm also bringing in, this is my mobile, and then in the CDP, I'm connecting this into my, let's say, marketing automation. And I'm also connecting this back to the site for personalization. And then I'm also connecting it to the app, right? So there might be there might be different ways where this CDP will be fitting into your stack. But you want to know, well, what is important for the CRM? How does the CRM connect? Or from a web perspective, what are the criteria needed? Because the CDP is not going to be a magical product that is going to fit in within your technology. You want to see what is the best way for it to fit in. I'll give you examples of what you should be watching out for. So for example, if you have any real-time requirements, what does that mean? What is real-time? So understand, you know, do I need to have, for example, real-time being seconds that I need to feed in? Do I need to build APIs to support real-time? Is this immediate or this is a future requirement, right? So things like this, you start thinking, okay, well, this is my data that is within my technology. I want to get it to the CDP as quick as possible. So what would that look like? I'm going to give you a very concrete example on this topic itself. You might have a use case that in step one here, one of your use cases that says, I want to send or create an audience for people who bought a product in my store and have you know, visited the site. It's a very basic use case. And you want to send them an email immediately. The second that they finish their purchase on the site, finish the purchase in the store, and then you know that they've been to the site in the last 2 days, send them an email with some kind of promotion, or maybe a survey, right? Send them a survey. Okay, well, then in this case, if your technology is where the purchase data is in the store, doesn't become available for your CDP immediately, then you have a situation where the data load from the purchase into the CDP will have a time lag. So in this case, if this is going to go from your POS, point of sale, to your CRM on a nightly batch, and then from the CRM, load it to the CDP on the next day, and then in the CDP, migrated, ingested, and then qualify the segment, you're talking about like 72 hours. So that survey will take a while. So in that case, then you say, okay, well, is there a way for me to streamline this? Can I have an API or a pipeline, a real-time pipeline into the CDP that purchases that are happening at the POS, I'm able to throw them on that pipeline, and then they will be ingested in the CDP within minutes or seconds. So that's where, from a technology, you start thinking, okay, what do I need to do? So important part as you're thinking about these things, is that how much development might be needed for some of these use cases or for this solution. You might be the type of client that says, I really don't have time to do development. I want a CDP that is plug and play, as simple as it is. I don't have resources, I don't have the bandwidth or budget to do dev work, or I don't want that headache. I'm with you 100%, but know that before you do the RFP, because otherwise you might be signing up for something where there will be a gap. The related to technology is the data, right? So this is as important, and I completely ruined this. Let me see. Here we go. So data itself, understand like how much of your data can be used for the CDP. I'll give you an example. Some clients might think, hey, yes, my data is in a data lake. All I need to do is just pick what is needed, come up with the right cadence, and throw it on an S3 or on a shared cloud, and then ingest to the CDP. Well, but is that data like in the right format? One, is it in the right granularity? How often is that data being refreshed? Does it need to be refreshed, and what cadence in CDP? I wouldn't say you need to figure all that out before you do the RFP, but start thinking about that as you are putting together the RFP, so that if you find that there is gaps, it's what I would recommend, start that process in parallel to the RFP to do some in-house data assessment and planning. So when the RFP is done and you have a CDP and starting implementing, there's no surprises. There is no like delay in saying, wait, we need to redo our data model before we bring it to the CDP. That might be a problem. Now, the last piece of this is the people. Very surprising that it's least thought of is who are the people that are going to be involved, not in implementation, but in running the RFP from your side. Now, you might say, I want to go hire Softcrylic. Please do to help us run this RFP. Great, we would love to help you, but I'll be the first one to tell you, I cannot do this and promise you a successful CDP selection unless I have buy-in from you and your company. So my recommendation would be, there's few people that should be involved in the RFP process from your side, from a client. Have an architect, even if they are, whether they're data architect or enterprise architect, someone that understands data, understands the client internally, what is the reality of the data, whether it's amazing or it is not amazing. Someone should be there. Business owner. So this is the person that will need to be convinced that this use case is the right one. And as the vendors are demoing and answering these questions, that their answers live up to what their needs are. Definitely have, you need to have procurement, God bless them, part of this, because they will be going through a lot of negotiation and understanding what are the fine print around pricing and such, and how, given that each vendor have different pricing structure. And then it would be great, I find it, is to have a project manager. Sometimes you have, and I apologize for my misspelling, I don't have autocorrect on my tablet. They should upgrade that. Anyway, sometimes the procurement might be doing a lot of the PM work, but there will be a lot of coordination that needs to happen internally within your organization, but also externally with the vendors that you bring in.